One critical thing that people are absolutely unaware of and completely unprepared for is just how vulnerable mom, dad, grandmom, and frankly, all of our financial accounts are to manipulation, to abuse, particularly in this online world that we live in. Now, no question, going online, clicking on banking has been very helpful and convenient. But the thing that people just don't understand, and the thing that I'm seeing more and more every day, is the ease in which mom and dad's nest egg, granddad's nest egg, can poof, disappear in a heartbeat, largely because the ease in which the financial institutions allow someone, anyone, to go on, click on the change of beneficiary designation, get the form. Sometimes it's just done directly online. And therefore push away financial accounts that people spent lifetimes collecting and protecting. Now, I want that as an opening, as a segue. Now, I'm going to talk about what it is we all need to do when you see mom, dad, granddad start slipping. Now, in many cases, people have, somewhat close family situations. We got brothers, sisters, siblings that are close to mom, dad, granddad, or whatever, and they can kind of keep an eye on things. On the other end of the spectrum, you have sort of the recluse, or the person that was pretty quiet. I'm seeing a lot of that right now. Our society has a way of estranging people, much different than ever before, and the implications for that are extraordinary and severe for where we are in 2026 and beyond. If you think back just a couple years ago when granddad, grandmom, maybe it was more nuclear, living together, they were picking up, Ma Bell, AT&T or whatever. Grandmom and granddad were involved with people in church, were involved with social clubs, Kiwanis, all those other kind of things. But that's slipping a lot. So more than ever before, this isolation of elders is provoking real problems and significant problems. Kids, the older generation and the digital generation are estranged. They're more involved in what's going on in their online world than what's happening with grandmom or granddad down here or mom down here. And again, that's producing some really severe consequences. So what any loved one needs to do is, number one, assess the situation. Assess what's going on with mom, dad, grandmom. If there are other family members, particularly ones that have hands on or eyes on directly, talking with them directly and understanding what are mom, dad, grandmom's needs. The second part of the situation is developing a plan of action, and sometimes that requires some difficult conversations with mom, dad, grandmom. Many of these people have chosen to be very private, circumspect in their financial affairs, but doing so in a way that allows them to maintain their privacy, but alert them to the very serious problems that I'm going to talk about. Now, if any of this is interesting to you, please drop a link in here, give your contact information, because we've got a toolbox that I want to share with families, with friends of loved ones, that will critically give you access to regulatory resources, both in New York and elsewhere. These are for the big firms that are regulated. And then at the local level, giving you what you need to do when there are extreme examples of exploitation and abuse. But that toolbox is critically important because this is something we're going to be seeing more and more of. My phone rings at least once a day with one example after the other. Frankly, the most typical example is mom, dad, grandmom living down here in Florida, have some means or modest means or whatever else, and then someone is down here taking care of them. The person that's taking care of them recognizes the fact that the elder is slipping, and then uses that as an opportunity to ingratiate themselves in, get themselves on bank accounts. Now, when mom or dad or the victim of this had their full wits about them, they were not as suspect to this. But what happens is they start slipping, they start becoming isolated, their wife dies, their golfing buddies die, and all of a sudden the last one standing is the housekeeper. That's when the housekeeper goes on the computer, click, click, and when dad dies, housekeeper's the one that's the beneficiary. So the warning here, the lesson, the piece of advice in the toolbox is, number one, maintain contact with these folks. There's nothing more sad than to see an elder person down here who has become isolated, over decades of trauma or abuse or fractured relationships. There may be reasons why mom, dad, grandmom are down here alone. But the most precious things in the world are when people are able to look past all that, reconnect, establish relationships, pick up that phone call, and keep picking up that phone to make those phone calls with people. The reality is that keeping that fiduciary contact is a critical part. The financial institutions now are looking to put those fiduciary contacts on all accounts, but helping mom or dad or grandmom to understand to not just keep all the stuff digital, but having the stuff in paper in an organized way so that when something happens, it's there for all the world to see, but also in a safe way. Because again, what's happening is it's the paper statements that are alerting the caregiver, the perpetrator of financial fraud and abuse, to their opportunity to come in and abuse these people. Now, here's sort of a nightmare scenario, all too common, and it's going to get increasingly common. The four kids know that dad had $1 million in the account, thereabouts. They're busy doing their own thing. They're not interested in dad's money. Dad was private. He's got $1 million in the account. He dies, and someone takes the lead. They start doing the probate, and they know that they're splitting, $1 million. So, 250 comes along, and everybody thinks it's squaring on the up and up. The reality, however, is much different. Lo and behold, dad, sharp as he was, had kicked over another account and invested well, did some good things, and boom, it's not $1 million that we're dealing with. It was $3 million. But his golfing buddy knew about this. His golfing buddy, when dad was slipping, allowed dad to sign a POD, payable on death or transfer on death, that account to the golfing buddy or the caregiver or the new spouse or something like that. So again, this concept of understanding with truth and with the full disclosure, what was dad's financial affairs before he died, is critical, so that when it comes time to actually transact that probate, all the assets and accounts are there. Now, the final piece of this is the thing that I'm really excited about. I've gotten licensed on a piece of software, a stable that gives us access to information like never before. I don't know anybody else around that has it at this point in time, relatively new, but extraordinarily powerful. It is in response to that phone call that I get, again, at least once a day, where someone calls in and says, look, I've been estranged from my mom down here. Hadn't talked to her in years. We talk at Christmas or whatever, or maybe not at all. But lo and behold, she's died, and I have no idea what her financial affairs are. That's one of the most difficult, frustrating, time-consuming aspects of probate. So what we are able to do now, once we get court orders and authority and run through the process, is access this software that gives us the ability to go in and research all the accounts that mom would have. Already there are examples of this piece of software alerting to some problems that have occurred. That Mutual of Omaha account out there that had $1 million in it that lo and behold was transferred to someone else. We would have had no idea were it not for the software alerting to what that is. So soon it's going to become practice, just absolutely required in every single case for every probate practitioner to be doing this. We're too much flying in the dark right now, and frankly, the entire probate specialty is not prepared for what I just described for you. We're using it on a regular basis. Again, if this has been timely for you, please like and subscribe. Click the link in here for that toolbox that will get you of communicating and helping elder people to protect and prevent financial abuse.